Hey there, Mystery Movie Recaps here. The movie begins with two close friends, Katie and Sloan, who are excited about their upcoming trip to Eco-Field Organic Farms. They plan to work there for a month to save money for a shopping spree in New York City. Katie's cop uncle, Jason, picks them up and they stay at his girlfriend's place for a night before heading to the farm. Sloan suggests they use fake names during their stay, with Sloan choosing Heather and Katie choosing Ripley. The next day, Jason drops them off at a station where they will catch a bus to the farm. Jason, being a protective uncle, advises them to come up with a safe word in case of trouble. He asks Katie to send him a different code word in alphabetical order every day. The safe word for that day is apple. After Jason leaves, Katie and Sloan wait at a cafe for the bus, where they attract the attention of two local men, Jed and Lucas. They introduce themselves with their fake names, and the brothers offer them a ride to the farm. However, the brothers intentionally pass by the farm, confusing Katie and Sloan. Eventually, they arrive at a house where Jed and Lucas' suspicious mother welcomes them. She invites them inside for tea before heading to the farm. Katie receives a text from her uncle and uses the safe word to let him know she's okay. Unbeknownst to them, the tea they drink is drugged, causing their vision to blur. Realizing something is wrong, Katie and Sloan try to escape but are overpowered by Jed and Lucas. The next day, they wake up chained in the middle of the woods. Jed informs them that they will be living there and provides basic necessities. Boris, Jed's boss, arrives and takes Katie's phone to check if anyone knows their whereabouts. He discovers their lies about their names and the code word. Katie and Sloan are forced to reveal that apple is the safety word. Just as things seem to be getting back on track, the town's sheriff arrives with a gun while they are preparing to take a bath. It is revealed that the sheriff is involved in human trafficking and intends to assault one of the women. After the sheriff leaves, Sloan comforts a shaken Katie. Meanwhile, Jason becomes concerned when he receives a text with the same safe word as the previous day. He contacts their workplace and learns that they never showed up, prompting him to search for them. Back in the woods, Jed and Lucas introduce another customer, referred to as Scruffy Guy, who takes Sloan into the trailer. Uncertain of what happened to Sloan, Katie tries to comfort her. Meanwhile, Jason confronts the perverted sheriff at his office. We discover that the uncle is not just a cop, but an FBI agent. He expresses his concerns and becomes convinced that his niece has been kidnapped. To add more intrigue to the plot, the FBI uncle decides to inform the sheriff about Katie's failure to use a new code word in her latest text message. Meanwhile, in the woods, the sheriff informs the kidnappers about Katie's uncle being an FBI agent and her deception regarding the safe word. Worried about the FBI interfering with their human trafficking operation, the boss Boris orders Jeff to kill both Katie and her uncle and dispose of their bodies. Unbeknownst to them, Katie overhears their conversation. Simultaneously, the FBI uncle decides to visit the cafe where he last dropped off Katie and Sloan. He questions the barista about any information he may have. The barista vividly remembers the type of truck Katie and Sloan left in. The next day, Katie reveals to Sloan that the kidnappers plan to kill them just before the kidnappers arrive with a scruffy accomplice. They leave the scruffy guy behind to watch over Katie and Sloan. Seizing the opportunity, Katie seduces him and then brutally kills him by ripping his throat with her bare teeth. The two women manage to free themselves from their chains. Shortly after, the sheriff arrives at the scene, presumably to kill them. However, Katie and Sloan have already stolen his car. They drive back to town and visit a hardware store to gather supplies. They inquire with the cashier about Boris, the man with the blue truck, and the cashier reveals his address. On the other side of town, Uncle Jason continues his investigation by visiting the town's car insurance building. He fabricates a story about colliding with a blue truck and inquires about its owner. Meanwhile, Boris returns home, only to be ambushed by Katie and Sloan. They throw nail-spiked tennis balls at him, causing severe injuries. With the tables turned, Boris pleads for his life and offers money in exchange for sparing him. Just as Uncle Jason arrives at Boris's house, Katie and Sloane have already left. He discovers a dying Boris and hears the sound of car engines outside. Katie and Sloane drive away, while Uncle Jason rushes Boris to the hospital. The sheriff later informs Uncle Jason that Boris did not survive. Growing increasingly worried, Uncle Jason attempts to call Katie's phone, but the sheriff, realizing his cover is blown, pulls out his gun. Katie and Sloane arrive at a church, where they confront the town's priest, who is revealed to be the man in the pig mask. Sloane confronts her rapist inside the church, and with Katie's help, they overpower him. As Katie and Sloane drive away, they appear content and carefree. However, when they make a stop and step out of the car, they discover that the priest, chained behind the truck the whole time, is still alive. They poured gasoline on him and set him on fire before driving off. While the two women seem to be thriving, Uncle Jason is now held captive by the sheriff. To their rescue, Katie and Sloane tie up the sheriff and subject him to a game of Russian roulette. It becomes evident that the two women are mentally unstable, but their actions can be somewhat justified. The sheriff begins to apologize just as Katie delivers a fatal blow to his head. Katie and Sloane free the captive women and instruct them to release Uncle Jason. Jason tries to inquire about the sheriff's killer, but the women remain silent out of gratitude for Katie and Sloane saving their lives. Next, Katie and Sloane visit Jed and Lucas' mother's house. They drug her in the same manner she drugged them days ago, tie her up, and take her to the basement where Jed is also bound and gagged. They brutally beat Jed to death with baseball bats while the mother is forced to watch. They then take the mother to Lucas, who is tied to a chair. Instead of killing him, they untie him and give him a bat, threatening him to beat his own mother. When Lucas hesitates, they shoot him dead. They stage his body to make it appear as if he committed suicide, planning to pin all the murders on him. Desperate to save her own life, the mother offers Katie money, but instead of sparing her, Katie uses a lawnmower to brutally murder her. In the next scene, Uncle Jason arrives at Katie's house to pick her and Sloane up. It is evident that some time has passed. Katie and Sloane are dropped off at the airport, excitedly embarking on their journey to New York City.